Welcome to Rebel Dharma, and glad you're here. So we were talking about the YouTube videos, and the majority of what I record, or the teachings that I give, I do record, and then it is later on YouTube. So you can find me there under No BS Buddhist, Jason Murphy. Yeah, I think it's the No BS Buddhist. I was having some issues with finding my brand. And anyway, you can go and there's meditations. So if you wanted to listen to a guided meditation, or there's also, just Dharma talks, or there's both meditation and Dharma talks. So feel free to check that out in the future if you'd like. Hello, welcome. Turn this. Hi. All right, so this is going to be a 30-minute meditation, and along with a 30-minute meditation, we're gonna get into a Dharma topic, or a topic about Buddhism. Yeah, and I've been working with a few different topics recently, and I've been actually working with these 3 phrases that I got from Rick Hanson. Rick Hanson is a Buddhist meditation teacher, a psychologist, and a neuroscientist. And I'm a total fan. Like I've sat with him, we've done some training together. He's in Northern California, and he wrote a book called Hardwiring Happiness, which is a great book. And it's really fusing these 3 things, kind of mental health, kind of psychological well-being, with neuroscience and Buddhist philosophy and practice. So if you're interested, I would suggest getting that book. And anyway, so I was in doing some trauma training not that long ago, because I'm a licensed therapist as well as a Buddhist meditation teacher. And so I was doing this training, and there's 3 things that he was talking about as practice. And the first is to let go. So learning to let go and bringing that into practice, bringing that into our kind of, our mindfulness throughout the day. And then the second is let be. So whatever we can't let go of, can we learn to just let it be? We don't have to push it away. We don't have to grasp onto it. We can just kind of hold it, allow it to be. Sometimes when we're in discomfort, we're really focused on getting rid of. And so learning to let be. And then the third is to let in. What can we let in that is going to support our well-being, support our happiness, kindness, compassion. So I want to work with these 3 phrases, these 3 kind of encouragements during the sitting practice, and then we'll get a little bit more into it from more of a Buddhist lens. So before we get into the formal meditation, does anyone want to introduce themselves? Anyone new to the group, either online or in the room? This is Rebel Dharma. It's a meditation group. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Kane. Nice to meet you. Is there anything else I should?
No, that's it.
Awesome.
All
Nice
right.
to meet everybody.
Welcome. Thanks, Kane. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Well, welcome to you anyway. All of you. Those of you returning, those for the first time. All right. So finding a posture that's workable, that's sustainable, where you can feel relaxed and alert. It's helpful to allow the eyes to close. It's not necessary to close your eyes, but it is helpful. Sometimes people maybe feel uncomfortable with their eyes closed in a room full of people. And if that's the case, And just allow your eyes to be downcast, just kind of soft focus, not necessarily on anything or looking around. But it can be helpful to allow the eyes to close and really just bring the attention inward. So often we're focused outward, we're focused on the external world and all the things that are going on. And sometimes we're missing what's happening internally. So this is an opportunity to turn that attention inward. But in just taking a few deep breaths. But opening to the comings and goings of sound. Sounds outside the room. Sounds inside the room. So the invitation is to let's try to embrace this idea of letting go. What can we let go of within the next exhale? What's in the way of our peace and ease? Letting go of any hindrances if they arise. We're just resting the attention on this experience of breathing. Letting go of each exhale, softening with each exhale. What stories do we hold on to that are no longer serving us? Can we let that go just for this breath? Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out. Exploring with just gently saying the phrase, let go. Of course, the attention may wander off. That's not a problem. It's just what minds do. Think, plan, remember. We're not trying to stop our minds from thinking, But instead, when we recognize that the thinking has taken over and moved us or pulled us away from this present time experience, we can just let go of the thought, come back to this body, this sitting, breathing body. Without judgment or criticism, just letting go. Oh, thinking. Oh, planning. Not a problem. Just not now. The next intention is to let be. We can continue this process of letting go, and whatever can't be let go of, can we just let be? Resting in the awareness of this present time experience. Again and again, recognizing if the attention has wandered off, and with that sense of friendliness or kindness with the mind, aiming the attention back, breathing in, breathing out. Connection with the breath and body, here and now. whatever else might be happening, can we just let it be? The invitation is to relax into each new breath. Observe what's arising and allow whatever's arising to stay for a time and pass away, as all things do. Letting go of what we can let go of. Letting be whatever's present. And then the third invitation is to let in. Can we let in a sense of goodness, a sense of care, compassion, well-being? Letting in the good. Letting in a sense of gratitude for this moment, for this life, for this day. Can we let in a sense of ease, a sense of well-being right here, right now? This breath, this sitting, breathing body anytime the mind gets caught in some story of future or past, can we let go? There's a sense of sleepiness or restlessness or agitation, doubt. Can we just let it be? Can we let in a sense of gratitude or well-being, ease, care. So that happened.
That really happened.
Yeah. How'd that go? Yeah.
I really like the bell or
Mm-hmm. It's a bell. Any questions about the instruction, about that process of meditation, or?
I have a question about some breathing exercises.
Okay. Is your hand? Oh.
I was practicing some the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and it was saying to put my peace fingers to the palm of my hand and hold one. It was an alternate nostril breathing exercise,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it's this way. Yes.
So so that's more of a yogic tradition, alternate breathing exercises, and it can be kind of people. There's no, I don't know. I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. I'm sure actually someone would think that there's a right way, and someone would think that there's a wrong way.
I felt like it was right for me.
Yeah, then it's right for you,
Okay.
and that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
Yeah.
and
I'm
that's
curious about the peace fingers.
no, yeah. I mean, that
For me, it was like this,
great.
and it felt right.
And then you'd switch
Yeah.
your hands to
It
do
was-
the other side.
Yeah, and then ultimately it would be and then a full inhale through the nose and then full exhale
Mm-hmm.
of letting go out through the mouth. And I found it to be very helpful as this.
Yeah, that's what I call a cleansing breath. It's definitely not like the thing here. What we're doing in what this is called vipassana. The word vipassana is a Buddhist word to mean insight. Vipassana. And so it just means insight. So that's the translation. And so that this is more of a Buddhist practice. And what you're kind of talking about, and some of what happens in yogic breathing is there's kind of some control with the breath, and kind of manipulation of the breath, which also, yeah, I mean, can be useful. It's relaxing. Anything where you're taking in a large amount of air and then kind of slowly or stalling the release is actually going to activate from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system, and what's called the vagal nerve, which is where all of our kind of cortisol and stress response and fight, flight, and all that kind of shit happens, right? So anything where we're doing some kind of adaptive breath like that can be helpful in regulating your nervous system.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, resetting or regulating your nervous system. The insight practice is really about using the breath as a tool for the mind to collect attention, right? So we're learning, there's kind of two skills in Vipassana. I mean, there's lots of skills, but one of them is concentration. So we're kind of learning one-pointed, what's called samadhi, which means one-pointed concentration, one-pointed awareness. And then mindfulness, right? Sati, which is this kind of awareness of what's happening within us and around us in any given moment. So we're kind of jostling these two experiences in like the meditation that I just guided you in, right? And yeah, and that has a whole different, I mean, it's, also because you're intentional with the breath. You're not trying to force the breath. You're not holding the breath. You're just allowing the breath to naturally move in and out. And it's just a point of observation, and it's constantly changing, right? Because everything is constantly changing. And this is, I once had a teacher, a Zen teacher, who I was kind of like, it was fairly new. I was in like kind of my first year of learning meditation and stuff. And I was kind of like, why is there so much like sitting meditation going on? And I wanted to, how do we bring this out into the world, and the teacher kind of looked at me and said, everything you need to know, you can learn right there. And I was like, well, that's not the easy way, And 25 years later, I'm pretty confident that that was a true statement. I just didn't see it then. You know, it was like me trying to speak Spanish, you know, like I know a couple words, I'm not fluent. I can maybe get by in a taqueria, you know, but if I really wanted to understand the language, you know, I have to really immerse myself in the language. We really have to immerse ourselves in the practice if we want to receive some of the benefit, you know. And it's helpful in the beginning, and it's helpful in the middle, and it's helpful in the end. So those are some of my thoughts about that. Yeah.
I was wondering if you find it helpful. So like sometimes I'll just label it thinking and then return to the breath. Like whether it's helpful at all to pay any attention to the content of thought, or whether it's best to just be like thinking. You know what I mean? Like yeah, I do.
So this is okay. I'm glad you brought this up. So the question, did you guys hear at home? The idea of labeling a thought or labeling thinking as the process that's happening. So, and sometimes I'll say thinking future or thinking past. So I'll give it like another layer of label. And I think in the beginning, it's helpful to just label thinking because we're so addicted to our fucking thoughts. Our thoughts rule our world. Our thoughts create our world. And so until we can learn to break the addiction from our fucking minds, then once we do that, you know, labeling, coming back to the breath, labeling, thinking, future, past, whatever, coming back. The future past can be helpful because then it's actually giving you information. It's all giving you information. But in the beginning, I think just thinking, oh, see how often I get caught in thought. And then recognizing, oh, is it future thinking or is it past thinking? And that's it. Don't get into any more analyzing. Just future thinking, past thinking. And that can give you more information later on when you're not in meditation, like, oh, you know, contemplating afterwards, or you can be journaling afterwards, or just, you know, talking with someone afterwards. Oh, I really notice I have a tendency to have future thoughts. Constantly planning, constantly organizing things in my mind. Oh, I wonder, what is that? What am I avoiding in the here and now? That could be something you could contemplate, right? So there's tendencies that we're going to be during the meditative experience, we can begin to kind of gently note, but we don't want to get into the busyness of trying to figure it all out. That can happen when you're not meditating. You know, let's say you meditate for 30 minutes a day. Okay, 30 minutes a day. Let's say you sleep, I don't know, let's say 8 hours a day, right? The rest of the time, you're fucking busy thinking, right? Busy thinking, planning, you're, you know, kind of thinking about the past, you're, you know, experiencing what's happening in the moment. So to just take that 30 minutes and just do the thing. Breathing in, breathing out, body awareness, you know, whatever the practice is, right? And then when you notice it to really kind of work, I try to emphasize more on working less on let's figure out the content of the thought and more about what's happening when I recognize that I've been thinking. Do I have judgment in the mind? And do I think you're a fucking bad meditator? Do I think this is so boring, I would rather be doing anything else? You know, like instead looking at that, like what's the attention that happens when you turn back, when you bring the attention back? So not necessarily what was going on. There's two quotes that I have about this. One is the Jack Kornfield, who's a pretty well-known psychologist and Buddhist meditation teacher, basically was asked a similar question, and he just kind of said, yeah, it's all just blips of energy. Thoughts are just blips of energy in the mind. So just treat it like that, just a blip of energy. Blip, blip, blip. And then come back. What's happening here? And what we might find is that there was actually something happening in our present time experience that the mind just instinctually pulled away from. And that is where the wisdom can be found. That's where the That's what we're calling insight of Vipassana. The other is a Zen quote. I don't remember it. I have it written down somewhere, but I don't remember it exactly. But basically, it's think of thoughts as just secretions in the mind. Just thoughts, the brain secretes thoughts, like the tongue secretes saliva, or the salivary glands secrete, or the pancreas secretes insulin, or the heart pushes blood. It's just happening. And so all of the content in our mind, it's really all just secretions. It's happening whether you're awake, whether you're asleep, whether you're conscious of it. One of the first insights that I think people, and I definitely experienced, and I think a lot of people tell me when they talk about experiencing, is when they get into any kind of this meditative state, the first thing they recognize is how out of fucking control their mind is. Holy shit. And you don't nearly notice that unless you actually try to bring your attention and place it in one point. And then you recognize, oh, wow, there's this flow, there's this freeway of thoughts and feelings and emotions going on that I've just been ignoring all day, right? Because I'm so outwardly focused. So at first we need to learn to kind of, okay, let's tame that by using the concentration. And then later, in the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the third foundation, so the first step is to learn to kind of tame and control the mind a little bit, like calm it down, right? And then begin to get some attunement to what we're actually feeling. And then we can begin to turn our attention to not so much even the content at this point, but really the repetitive nature of thoughts. Hence the labeling future, labeling past, coming back to the present, labeling future, labeling past, coming back to the present. This is just that alone, super helpful. You won't know until you do it, right? Like I can talk to you about it and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But you won't actually know until you begin to see that in the process, right? And then there's maybe a sense of calm, or a sense of contentment, or a sense of understanding that will arise naturally. So then the 4th foundation of mindfulness is kind of like what we were talking about last week, which is applying some particular Buddhist principles to this tamed kind of, I guess tamed is the best way to think about it. The mind is flighty, it's unruly, it's doing whatever it wants most of the time. And so the whole first few points of meditation is, can we just learn to be, and just to let be, let go of the discursive thinking, let go of the stories, let go of all the stuff that we occupy ourselves with, and then let be what's present. And that sounds easy, right? But it's really difficult, especially if you're used to and addicted to following and chasing your thoughts and, understanding everything. But I just really want to know. I want to know, why did that happen? Why did my right ear itch 15 minutes into meditation? Why did that happen? What is the experience there? Why is my left toe tingling? Is it going to fall out? Do you ever get lost? I mean, we just get kind of lost, and then we're distracted, and then we're 15 minutes away from, oh, what was actually happening right here? As I go off on a kind of ADD rant. Is that helpful? Yeah. Really, it's just keep it simple. This instruction that I gave, I really I've been working with it, and I really like it because it's actually teaching us to be multidisciplinary in our meditation practice. So first thing, breath, right? Body awareness, here, now, the breathing in, know that you're breathing in, breathing out, picking up a particular point of focus. Then this, by utilizing or learning to use, okay, there's times where letting go is useful and necessary, right? Such as discursive thinking. And then there's times where letting be is vital. Can we let this be? We don't have to push it away. We don't have to grasp onto it. We can just let it be. I really think about that as some of the more emotional content versus the thinking content, right? Most of the thinking, it's bad news anyway, right? But if we can drop into the let be, into a felt sense of here and now, I don't know, there's something transforms. And I believe, okay, well, let me finish. And then the letting in is, when is it skillful to turn toward, some resource that we need, whether it's compassion or whether it's forgiveness or whether it's gratitude, and having gratitude for the mind itself. What's tricky about Buddhism is that, and it's full of paradoxes, in case you haven't noticed, and paradoxes are really helpful and sometimes very difficult, right? This is where, like in the Zen koan, where they're kind of saying one thing, but doesn't really have an answer, or the idea of paradox, like letting it be, letting something be, or letting something go, and then they seem counterintuitive, right? So letting in, discerning whether or not letting go is the appropriate tool, letting be is the appropriate tool, or letting in is the appropriate tool in that moment. This is where we're learning discernment in our practice. So we're not just breath worshipers, breathing in, breathing out. The breath is all there is, Sometimes in the beginning, that's super fucking helpful, but then we're learning to be malleable, Yeah. So this is where that talk is going. Anything else? Yeah.
So I really like that instruction. It kind of bypasses this thing for me of what do I do with thinking, like labeling, whatever. Just the idea of letting go.
Yeah, just let go.
It's such a on-off kind of thing, which I really found useful. But then the let be was always ended up being a physical sensation. Like maybe I had a little heartburn because I just had a cup of coffee, or whatever it was at that time. So that's easy also to just kind of exist with. But then you mentioned the let it in, you called it a reaching or a resource, resources. And that actually I didn't like so much, because all of a sudden I was in this place of looking for something outside. Like you were like, so now maybe it's gratitude. You're instructed, and I'm kind of like, okay, wait, do I need to be grateful for something right now? Do I need to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Sort of a thing, and I'm wondering if that's what you intended to kind of break out and reach for it, or if there's a time when you feel it coming in, but you're resisting, and it's time to let it in.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that. And in my understanding of this instruction, it's just as simple as the first two, where it's really just after the letting go and the letting be, can we just be receptive to the goodness, whatever, and that can be internal.
So we're searching for something.
It's not really searching. No, it's just opening to the possibility that you're a fucking good person, no matter what you think about yourself. And can you let that in? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I feel it's, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I feel like it's kind of like we're directing ourselves towards something good.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, it could be, right?
As
Right.
opposed to like, if I'm feeling shitty about something, like something shitty in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and letting that in and just letting that be
Yeah.
what it is.
Well, that would be that's the discernment piece. So I want to, there's another, I just said, as I was giving the description after about resourcing, right? And so yeah, I hear that you're a little bit caught up on that phrasing, which happens for you sometimes. You get caught up on some words and then you want to, you want to talk about the difference between and yeah, no, it's fine. It's okay. I like that about you, Frank. But what I appreciate, or what I want to clarify is that I use it resourcing by meaning sometimes it is bringing external or practices. So you are kind of reaching for gratitude. So I give these different examples: gratitude, compassion, ease, and that because sometimes that's what we need. Is to actually be receptive to letting in the goodness, because we often have such a negative self-view. But the first two, great. These are wisdom practices. The third, letting in, more of a heart practice, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
A little bit of meta going in there.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't, it's not necessarily outreaching in. It's more, so when I say resourcing, I don't necessarily mean external resources. I mean internal resources. That a sense of original goodness. So we're kind of opening to, okay, can I let in a sense of original goodness? Hence my phrase earlier, my saying earlier about like letting in, that you're a fucking good person. No matter what horrible things. When I was new to meditation, I would constantly get, and that's an exaggeration, constant. I would often get an onslaught of the top 3 or 5 reasons why I'm just like a worthless human being, why I'm the worst person on the planet, and why I should just probably go kill myself. And the thing that happens in meditation is that letting go is like, oh yeah, just let that go. Let that go. That's just some story. Just let it go. Letting it be is like, why is this here? Like, what is this message? Oh, and then maybe there's some understanding that can come with that. And then, oh, can I have some compassion? Can I let in some compassion for this part of me that feels unlovable? As an example, right, of kind of how to use these 3 discerning, very useful tools within Buddhism. I've been intimate in connection with, therapeutically and mentoring and teaching and on long retreats and supporting people through practice enough, and close friends and family, to know that it's a very common experience, that sense of dread or worthlessness or defective or whatever the negative cognition is that arises, drives a lot of our self-destructive behavior. And sometimes in meditation, when we're doing something good, it just fucking pops up. Hey, don't forget, you're a piece of shit. I know you're like all in this loving, kind moment right now, but don't forget about that time when you did that thing. Right? Or when there's the letting in of the possibility of being connected to other human beings in the world. And then that, that thought comes in. It's a protective thought, actually. It's a thought that says, don't get hurt again. But it comes in and it says, remember that time when that person did the thing? So don't connect to people. It's bad for you. Remember? Okay. Can we let that be? Can we let in some forgiveness, some compassion for that? Can we let that go? Not push it away, but can we let it go naturally? This is what in Buddhism we call a purification process. This is not about learning how to control your mind. This is about learning how to free your heart. That's what this is about. But it's a process, and the heart is pretty guarded. Or it's not guarded at all, and both extremes can be problematic, Right. So yeah, so the discernment of using the three, letting go, letting be, or letting in, that's something that we're attuning to. And the things that might be difficult, for us, for some people, letting go is the hard one, or letting be is the hard one. I like the way you described it, like letting go, thought, yeah, no problem. That's the way it's just, oh yeah, just let it go. And I used to have such a problem with that phrase or that term, let go, just let go. Let go of what? How do you do that? As I'm grasping it, how do you let go of this? I don't know. How do you let go? How do you do it? You just ungrasp. You just release. That's how you let go. There's often some resistance to it. Yeah.
It's funny because I think I explain it to people sometimes as like, this is like coming to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Although it would be good usually when you go to the gym, you're talking about lifting big weights.
Mm-hmm.
The work at this gym is letting go of the
Yes, right, sure.
coming, because that letting go is not an issue for me now. And I've been doing this for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember it used to be a real issue. Just didn't make sense.
Yeah, it's counter instinctual because we have been conditioned to do a certain thing, which is to grasp. Which leads me to my topic for tonight. So thank you for, oh, damn it. Okay, good. I just closed the wrong window. All right, I want to read what I'm going to talk about now is this idea of craving, of attachment, of grasping. In the Four Noble Truths, that are laid out by the Buddha, there's the four truths are basically instructions. The first instruction, they're suffering. Recognizing that they're suffering, stop being in denial of the suffering. And there's a difference between pain and suffering. And, everyone's heard this, it's just, super cliche now, but, pain is mandatory. Suffering is optional. This is a Buddhist phrase, this is a Buddhist teaching, right? The second noble truth is that there's a cause to suffering. And the cause to suffering is what's called tanha. Tanha is a Buddhist word to mean thirst. It means the direct translation is unquenchable thirst. What does that sound like? It's like an alcoholism to me, the unquenchable thirst, never enough. So here is a quote from Ajahn Amaro. Ajahn Amaro is the, kind of our main monastic teacher. He's been around a long time. He's a cheeky British guy. He's been a monk since like 1977 or some shit. So this is his translation of the second noble truth. This, monks, is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. It is that craving, compelling, intoxicating, which causes us to be born into things again and again, ever seeking fresh delight, now here, now there. It is namely the craving for sensual delight, the craving to be something, and the craving to feel nothing. This, monks, is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. It is that craving, compelling, intoxicating, which causes us to be born into things again and again, ever seeking fresh delight, now here, now there. It is namely the craving for sensual delight. This craving to be something, this craving to be something, and the craving to feel nothing. So I'm going to break that down a little bit, but I just love that phrasing. And it was just so, so let's just put it out there. What comes up for you when you think about that? Just popcorn, just like say, what comes up for you when you think about the words that I was just saying, this definition?
Keep thinking about all the things I want to do in this world and all the people I want to help, and if I can't do in this lifetime, I want to keep coming back for as many lifetimes as possible to achieve those things, but really shouldn't concern myself with that, whether it happens or not, or what I'll become if I don't come back in this lifetime or not.
Mm-hmm.
Do give me a lot to think about in that regard.
Okay. Others? Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that he focused specifically on sensual
Mhm.
delights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's definitely a part of it, but I'm sort of surprised that he was so specific about it,
Mm.
but
Mm-hmm.
that seems like part of a spectrum of things that we crave, but.
What else do we crave besides sensual pleasure? Sense door pleasure.
Validation, safety,
Mm-hmm.
comfort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But are all pleasing, yeah.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're not necessarily sense oriented, is what you're
Mhm.
saying. They're more this kind of internal, like I think validation. That was great. I'm glad
Yeah.
you said that, because I think that we do crave validation, right? But why? Because
Mhm.
it gives us a sense of security or a sense of okayness.
Sure.
In some way, it kind of feeds the be somebody.
Yeah.
If I'm getting validated by somebody else, then that means somebody is seeing me, right? So there's a me that's really involved in that. Right? So what I think you're saying is that and I agree. I think that there's the craving for sensual delight. This is what he's saying. There's the craving for sensual delight. There's the craving to be something. So this selfing, this identification with this is who I am. And then there's the craving to feel nothing. Right. What comes up for people about that? The craving to feel nothing.
I just like the contradiction of wanting all this sensual pleasure, but at the same time not wanting anything. That's a very addictive thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You drink to feel good or whatever,
Mhm.
sensual pleasure, but by doing that, we have to wipe out feeling anything.
Right. We're actually drinking to not feel.
Yeah.
Or drinking to feel. Right.
It's kind of both.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Right. And seeking sensual delight. It's like, where does some of that validation come from? But the sensual delight is more, and I had a misquote, and I said sexual, because sexual delight is part of sensual delight. And it's the first part, the craving, compelling, intoxicating. It's not that desire for connection is bad, or even the desire for pleasurable experiences is bad. It's not. It's the craving, compelling, intoxicating part where we become attached or want more. That's the That's the tanha of it, right? That's the unquenchable thirst. And so from the Buddhist perspective, this is the cause of suffering. Addiction. Addiction to pleasure. Or things that are pleasing. There are ego bolstering, in a sense. Things that we identify with. Right? This is me. And the flip side of I have 4 more pages of notes, but I don't think we're going to get to it today. But we'll get through some of it. Well, I'll just do that. I'll just go through I'll go through some of these notes. So around the desire, right? Because there are 3 kinds of desire. That's what we've just been talking about. But before that, the Buddha gives this instruction around there's the 3 aspects of understanding. That for all of the noble truths, that there's 3 aspects of understanding. And I didn't finish I just got to the second noble truth. I didn't get to the third or the fourth, but the third noble truth. So the first noble truth is that the truth of suffering. The second noble truth is that there is the cause of suffering, which is craving, tanha. And then the third noble truth is that there is an end to suffering as possible. There's a possibility of freedom from suffering. Declaration. Also kind of prognosis. Ailment, diagnosis, prognosis, treatment. Fourth noble truth. The path leading to the end of suffering is the Eightfold Path. Let go, let be, let in. So, okay, so there's 3 aspects. There's an origin of suffering. So where does this suffering come from? Where's the origin of suffering? This letting go, letting be, letting in, I feel like is helping us, or the vipassana, this kind of training the mind. It's important, I think, to not use the letting go as avoidance. That's why there's the letting be, because sometimes we need to go, no, not now, let go. This thought isn't helpful. That's just, repetitive storyline. It's like, this happens a lot now, I think, where people are on their phone and they're watching something. Anyone else? On your phone, scrolling while watching, so there's commentary. This is what's happening in the mind, right? There's this commentary. And so what we're learning to do is kind of decipher, okay, what's the commentary and what are we actually focused on? And then what can be underneath that? It's like double distraction. All right, so the 3 aspects. There is the origin of suffering, which is attachment and craving. So that's the first aspect of understanding. We have to understand this. And it's interesting in some of the teachings, the way that they're talking about understanding is standing under. Right? It's like flipping those words, standing under. In other words, it's kind of like standing under a waterfall, allowing the water to kind of wash over you, like truly understanding the origin of suffering, which we all do, right? Even though we try to avoid it. We can get pretty good at avoiding it. Trying to be somebody, trying to feel nothing. All the sensual pleasures, all the cakes, all the pies, all the sunsets, whatever. We have a lot of strategies to try to keep it going. So craving should be let go of. So this is craving should be let go of, and the knowing, so understanding that craving should be let go of, and then understanding that craving has been let go of. So just like when we were working with the hindrances the last few weeks, noticing that a hindrance comes in the mind, bringing awareness to the hindrance itself, knowing that it's present, and then also being aware when it's no longer present. Same thing is true with craving. Craving arises. It's not going to stop. It might shift. You know, I worked in the addiction field for a long time, and we'd talk about addiction transference, right? I'm really addicted to cocaine, man. Cocaine is like super, it's good. It's so good. And then, oh, I hate cocaine. Cocaine's bad. Cocaine's really bad. But weed, yeah, weed. I really love weed, man. Weed's great. This kind of craving monster, right? It just switches. It even happens in recovery too. Oh yeah, work's really good. Wow. I want to work all the time. And so on, and so on, and so on, right? This craving. It is kind of a craving monster. Mm-hmm. All right, so then the awareness of letting go of craving. Craving has been let go of, you know. So when it passes, or when we can, and part of doing that is this, what we call renunciation. So we don't have to give in. We can let go. Oh, I can just let go of this craving. What happens when you let go of craving?
You really taste something.
You really what?
You really taste something or feel it instead of thinking about the next time you'll taste or feel it.
You really taste something or feel it. So so if you let go of craving, I don't understand how that doesn't make sense to me. Can you say it a different way? If you let go of craving, you really taste something or you really feel something?
Yeah, like I guess in the moment, like I guess I'm trying to understand what I'm saying at the same time with you are.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like, I guess I'll put in a metaphor. I really love pizza. If I'm eating a pizza and I'm eating one slice, I'm already thinking about the next slice. Craving. I'm like, oh, I really want to eat the whole pizza. I do taste it, but not fully.
Because of the anticipation of the next. I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, that's a good example because I also like pizza. Yeah. So the letting go of the craving and just being in the what you're talking about is satisfaction. So if it was heroin, right? And you're using heroin, but while you're using heroin, you're thinking about the next time you're using heroin, then you're not actually enjoying the heroin that you're using. But you are also satisfying the craving.
Yeah.
So you're not actually renouncing. You're not actually letting go of craving. You're actually satisfying craving. And that only works for, shorter and shorter periods of time, which is what we know about addiction, right? So let's turn this back to letting go of all kinds of craving. What happens when we let go of craving? Has anyone done it? Not even for short periods of time? Yeah.
I guess it would at first be, if you let go of craving at first, I think it would be frustration, but then that would give way to, I guess, emptiness and then peace.
Yeah, like contentment. Oh, if I let go of this, need, what happens? First, it's a little bit painful because there's a conditioning that, oh, I got to have this, And so pizza is a great example, right? Because, cheese, oh yeah, and it's the sauce and the crust and all together, right? And then as you're enjoying it, even though it's, it's going to clog your arteries and it's not very good for you and it, whatever, it has some negative connections. So it's hard, but it's hard to kind of turn away from that. Or sugar is another example. Like it's hard to kind of turn away from it at first because there's that craving for it. But if you let go, renounce the craving, then there is a sense of confidence. There's a sense of ease. There's perhaps a sense of well-being that actually arises. I really just think about it as confidence, self-esteem. I did that shit. I avoided pizza. There is a real benefit. I mean, add in whatever the craving is. There is a sense of well-being that comes, that gets restored. Okay. Any questions based on what I've said so far? We're probably almost done for the day. I'll have to revisit this topic. What about you guys online? Anything?
Multiple hindrances attack.
Okay. Just a random statement, or you want me to talk about
Oh, I think that was from a previous week.
it? Was, but I know what you're talking about. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
So the MHA, the multiple hindrance attack, is when you might be having craving and like restlessness and agitation. Those would be two common things that would come up together. And I was kind of normalizing that we don't just have one hindrance that arises necessarily. Sometimes there's a dominant one, like doubt. Doubt would be dominant, or even like craving, wanting, fantasy in the mind. This is during meditation, right? I mean, it happens, it's happening more often throughout the day. Actually, we're most often we're just kind of led by our instinctual desire for pleasure. And I really want you to try to explore that, like do an experiment of exploring your just constant need for pleasure and seeing if you can slow that process down, not gratify it as often, as quickly. And it can be as much as, like sitting still. And then when it gets uncomfortable, not moving right away. That is growing your distress tolerance. It's also growing your ability to be uncomfortable, right? And not just seeking the pleasurable alternative. I really noticed this one time. It's so simple, but I was walking. I was on a meditation retreat, and I was doing walking meditation. And I picked a walking path. When you do walking meditation, you pick like a 20-foot path, 20 to 30 feet, and you just walk back and forth on that path. That's all you're doing. It's a walking meditation, right? So there's less kind of figuring out. You're just lifting, moving, placing, stepping, and turn, stepping back and forth, back and forth. Part of the path was in the sun. Part of the path was in the shade. And so I would notice as I moved into the path and the part of the path with the sun, the pleasurable experience was like a wave. I'd also been meditating for a while, so it was kind of like being on mushrooms, right? Or ecstasy or something. But just the pleasurable experience of just being in the sun. And then, oh, this is so nice. Like the end of the path, I would stop and just feel sun on my body, feeling it soaking in vitamin D. It was like, I don't know, life-giving. And then I would turn and I would start to walk away from the sun into the shade. And then it was like, this is unpleasant. This sucks. But I could have sped up and then got back and sped up and got back. But, that's addiction, right? That's what we're doing. Avoiding the unpleasant and, trying to hang out in the pleasant. So the practice was to keep the same pace and just notice unpleasant, pleasant. Oh, seeking, wanting more pleasurable experience. Just the sun landing on my face and then moving into the shadow. That was like one of the most profound experiences that I had of this kind of understanding, like really understanding. It's very simple, right? But to me, it was very profound. This understanding of that shift that can happen within us and that we're kind of being led by all the time. And so the experiment is to try to be in some of the unpleasant and learn to let that be. You know, and then when it is pleasant, letting the pleasant in. And when there's craving, letting it go. So the multi-hindrance attack was where I started, is the awareness of that there's multiple things kind of happening, and we're just bringing awareness to that. That's kind of what I meant by the multi-hindrance attack, where there's not just one thing, it's not just sleepiness, but there's sleepiness and then there's doubt, right, that are connected, or there's craving and agitation. So being open to that. Yeah. Thoughts, questions, reflections on what I've been talking about, what I'm saying so far. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up, because when I'm anxious and or thinking a lot, I tend to, especially when I'm smoking a cigarette, I'll pace in a line back and forth and
Mhm.
or in a tight circle a lot. And I kind of recognize that as kind of not the best thing, but you're also saying that like if I practice mindfulness at the same time, that could be a very good practice. I don't have to stop pacing. I just need to do it in a different perspective or something like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. So you're not change the language from pacing to meditating.
I didn't know you could meditate while like walking and whatnot. So that's awesome. Thank you.
And maybe even just slow it down and feel the steps. What it sounds like is actually happening is that you're activating because you're having, there's some anxiety kind of going, so a physical sense of anxiety. So you're activating into mobilization, which is, you know, it's the way that we get it out of our body. Some people go to the gym, some people go to yoga, some people go running, some people go surfing, some people go skateboarding, you know, some people pace in circles, smoking cigarettes. Right? Or do jumping jacks. But to slow that down and just call it meditation after you finish the cigarette. Anything else?
Yeah,
Mike?
real quick. I like the reflection on like mindfulness of the feeling tone, because it's something that really resonates, because I've been using it, you know, a lot lately, and I feel the word that keeps coming up is there's a clearing and a recognition that when you say pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral, and you cycle through that stuff, the insight is that stuff arises and ceases quicker, and you realize it. You can have unattached appreciation for something when it's pleasant, and then if it's unpleasant, there's a recognition and an acceptance of that, and you feel like it's cycled through and move like a rise and cease. Like I guess you get a verifiable faith that process keeps working and working. So I just like how you unpacked it. It was good.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I was trying to connect it to, the self-worth or the self-esteem that arises, the confidence that arises in this practice when we move through something like that. It's like, oh, I made it through that. Oh, I fucking survived, you know. Heartbreak one more time.
I think the other side of that though is like, if you're so used to being like grasping onto something, that when you let it go, there's such a vulnerability in it.
Yeah.
And like, I know for me, sometimes I won't even know how to really Like I'll just kind of become paralyzed in it because I don't know how to not feel that suffering. Does that make sense?
You mean,
So like,
what do you become paralyzed in? The grasping?
just no, like if like just in trying to let it go, that I don't, it's not necessarily a comfort because I don't know what it feels like to let it go. So the uncertainty of what it's going to be when it's gone, you know what I'm saying?
And then once you move through that and realize that you didn't die, then what? When after
I mean,
you
yeah. I mean, obviously it's, you've gotten through it and you can be proud of it, but it's just that sometimes just getting stuck in the middle of it, kind of halfway dangling in between the two is, just something that
this is
I wish it were always as easy as just getting through it and being
It's
like,
not.
oh, I'm so proud of myself. But it
Yeah.
doesn't always happen.
No, right. No, this is why this, monks, is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. It is that craving, compelling, intoxicating, which causes us to be born into things. Born into things again and again means grasping and then creating an identity around the grasping over and over, being identified with the suffering that's attached to it over and over again. It's not necessarily life to life. It's moment to moment. Ever seeking fresh delight, now here, now there. It is namely the craving for sensual delight, the craving to be something, and the craving to feel nothing. We'll pick this up next week. But you're right. Yeah, it's not easy. It's unfamiliar, unpredictable, unsafe, and freeing versus familiar, predictable, safe, and painful. But we'll stop there for now. Thank you for your time and attention. Please know that everything that happens here happens on a donation basis, and there is a bowl at the door that you can donate. The suggested donation is $15 for this room. And then if you wish to support me as a teacher, I have a Venmo. It's Jason Murphy or No BS Buddhist, and you can Venmo me whatever feels appropriate for you. And there's no dues or fees. So this is run completely on the donation of those who attend. So thank you for attending, and do what feels right to you. So we're going to dedicate the merit. This is kind of dedicating that this practice, we don't just do this practice for ourselves, but we do this practice for the liberation of all beings everywhere. May all beings do what needs to be done to free their own hearts and minds from suffering. May we all be free.